Welcome back. I'm Anastasia, and my mission is to build a community of acceptance and authenticity. I needed some adventure buddies for this journey of insight, and I'm glad it's you. You are all welcome here, exactly as you are, and I am grateful that you decided to join me. Today, I want to take a moment to talk about the phrase, "It takes a village." There are a lot of layers to being a part of a village, and it's important to build insight into every facet of a community. And I am in my super cozies today because hopefully you can accept me as I am. As I'm recording this, I actually have bruised ribs today and I am really uncomfortable. So rather than attempting to get all nice and up and done in my occupied mind gear and making my hair all nice, I decided to match the pillow that is next to me. So if I am a little fidgety today, or I am, doing my best. I'm doing my best, guys. So yeah, bear with me today as we talk about what it means to be a part of the village. And I'm going to need all of you to be a part of my village and accept that I'm in my super oversized hoodie today. It's very comfortable and I'm very happy to be recording it. So before we get started, I do want to take a moment to thank my partner, Occupied Mind. Occupied Mind's goal is to create a sanctuary of self-expression. Their belief is simple yet profound. Everyone deserves to feel at home in their own skin. We share that dream, which is why I support them, and my closet is slowly turning into an Occupied Mind showroom. Use code INSIGHTSWITHUS15 at checkout to find a shirt that speaks your mind and bears your soul. That's OCTOPIEDMIND.com. Use code INSIGHTSWITHUS15 at checkout for 15% off. Be authentically you. It takes a village. What does this mean? When someone says it takes a village, it is often in regards to children. That it takes a village to raise a kid. But every single one of us, no matter how old we are, needs a village, a community. Our world has become more and more isolated over the years. And our main communication these days is through a little box that we stare into. It's our own little pocket world. And even if there are people that we can interact with in real life outside of the box, sometimes we kind of choose to interact in the box. And we often underestimate how important it is to feel included. And then when we lose it or don't feel it the way that we want to, it becomes all too clear that what we need as humans is to feel supported and seen. I've been sitting with this idea of a village a lot these past few months, mainly because the majority of the people in my village have been talking about how hard this year has been, how lonely we all feel, and wondering how to feel more connected. The challenge is, and I've done this too, is that we often focus on what others can do for us and not that we are also a part of a village and what we can do for others. I know it's easy to think about in like general vague terms, but what does that actually mean in reality? So when we are struggling, we want to see other people prioritizing us. We want to feel special, we want to feel seen, and we want to see them make time and space for us. Sometimes we even hope that they read our minds and do exactly what we need without asking, because asking somehow feels like we are being a burden or forcing their hand, even though they could always say no and it's totally fine to ask. It is easy to feel like we've lost our village if we've had a bad week, month, or year. And those that we care about, when they don't show up for us the way that we need, it feels harder. However, this isn't always the case because we humans are layered and we're complicated. And often our village does show up for us, but in the way that they can, even if it isn't exactly the way that you had hoped. An example of this, which I have seen in 4 separate examples this year alone, is when we want a friend or a family member to block out time to spend with us one-on-one, but they don't have the capacity to give us that kind of support. So they text or they call more often, and they regularly ask how we're doing, and they try to support us in a way that they can. And they are constantly trying to show you that you matter, even if they aren't there in person. But we don't feel good, or we feel really lonely. And then we get caught up in what is called negative sentiment override. This is a term that comes from the Gottman Institute. And according to the Gottman Institute, negative sentiment override, or the negative perspective, is when residual emotions from every interaction build up over time and create a new layer to the relationship, which can then get in the way of objectivity of the present moment. So basically, it is the lens with which you are looking at the world through. These lenses are tricky because it feels like your experience is fact, that it feels true. It is hard to even notice that you're looking through that lens, much less change the lens that you're looking out of to see if you're missing any information. If you spend an entire month telling yourself, no one cares about me, I'm alone, I need someone to show up for me, and you were explicitly hoping for someone to show up in person, then through this negative lens, you might miss the fact that people are texting you or calling you or regularly checking in. Taking off that negative lens, you might see that your village is there for you, but within the context of their capacity and who they are authentically, not just who you want them to be. We cannot make others change who they are just so we feel more connected. We need to find ways to accept ourselves and others for who we are and how we need to show up moment to moment. One of my favorite examples of this is I have a dear friend. It means everything to me. We are so close, and we only see each other maybe once or twice a year. And of course, we would both love to see each other more, but our capacities and everything else we're doing in life doesn't allow for it. But I know she is there for me. And if she is worried that I am hitting a limit and I really need someone in person, she will go out of her way to make sure that she is there for me. And I will do the same for her. If she says like, hey, I really need you to show up right now, I will make it happen, no questions asked. But honestly, we really do only see each other once or twice a year, unless one of those moments happen. And she is one of my closest friends because we both have the ability to hold space for where the other person is at. So, quick aside here. I know that this could be construed in a lot of different ways, from like mini stage of like you and your life to world stage and everything that's going on societally right now. So I want to name that I am talking about this in regards to our friendships, our family, our romantic relationships, and not necessarily everyone on this planet, because especially in our present circumstances, there is a lot of hateful speech going around and people who want to be accepted, but then refuse to accept others. There's a lot of like, can't we just accept that this is who we all are kind of headspace? But if you want to be accepted for who you are, you also need to accept others for who they are. It does go both ways. Otherwise, a boundary needs to be set. And that can feel like people are hating on you for who you are. But at the end of the day, you still get to be who you are. You just can't dictate who other people are. And that's the difference. So saying that we need to accept ourselves and accept others really truly does go both ways. And it does not mean that if someone is using hateful speech, you still have to accept them for them. If someone uses hateful speech, that means that they aren't really accepting this other person or you. And this is a moment for reflection, curiosity about why this person might be in your life, and figuring out what boundaries you might need to set. You do have to accept that this is who they are choosing to be in this world, and you need to accept that you cannot change who they are, but you do not have to accept what they then mean to you. That is what is within your own control. Because you cannot force anyone to learn or grow, but you can make it clear that how they are choosing to treat others makes you really uncomfortable. And if they do want to continue to show up in that way, you might not want to stick around. In our day-to-day relationships, we also need to accept that we cannot change others, and we cannot dictate how others show up for us. We can only share what we need and see how they respond. So if what we need is to tell them what to do, have a black and white solution, we're going to be disappointed because life isn't black and white. So instead of solely focusing on how others show up for us, and if you want me to go into more detail about that, listen to my last solo episode because I do talk about it some more in more detail around like what is yours and what is theirs and what kind of self-care and what your need might be. So check that episode out if you haven't. But instead of solely focusing on how others show up for us, we also need to focus on how we then show up for others, again, within our capacity. So how are you, as a part of the village, a part of the community, showing up for others? There's a lot of different ways to do this. Think of it as a whole spectrum. But today we're going to talk about how you can have a large role in someone's village or a small role in someone's village, and both can make an impact. So if you are a big part of someone's life, that might be a romantic partner, a close friend, a sibling, a parent, or even just a child, you might want to make an effort to show up in big ways in someone else's life. This could be texting them regularly to let them know you're thinking about them and appreciate them. Anytime they do something for you, make a note of it, share gratitude for it, and then take the time to match their effort and do something kind for them in return. Something my mom always taught me was if somebody makes you something and like gives you Tupperware or a nice plate, make something back so that you don't return the plate empty. You share that love and give it back to them. And another one of my favorite small moments is if someone does gift me something. If I use it regularly, or if I even just use it once, I make sure to send them a picture of me using it when I can, so that they know how appreciated that gift was. Even if it's a year later, be like, hey, I finally opened it up. What do you think? It looks great. And I might not remember to do this every time, but I do try to do it as often as possible so that the person who gifted it to me feels that love back. Another incredibly important way to show up as a villager is to make sure that you give them time to talk about themselves too. If we're focused on what other people are doing for us, if they check in, you're just going to talk about you and your life and what you're dealing with, and you might not even notice that you haven't asked them a question yet, or you haven't heard about what's going on in their life. And so when we are in need of a village, yeah, we want people to check in with us. But if you want it to be a community, you want it to be reciprocal, then you need to make sure it's two-sided. You need to make sure that you also check in with your village and how they're doing and what they're going through. Match their effort and check in with them just as much as they check in with you, or at least some of the time. Do it occasionally so they know you're trying. And there are extra points being a villager if you can not only check in with what they're doing, what they're going through, how they're doing, but actually process it, remember it, and then bring it back up next time. Like I had to switch up a medication the other month, and I knew that it was going to affect my body and I didn't know how. And so I kind of mentioned it haphazardly to my partner, like, hey, I'm doing this thing. I don't know what my body's going to do next. We'll see. And then a few weeks later, I was stressed and I was confused and I felt off and my body was icky. And my partner was just like, well, yeah, you're still transitioning meds, right? Makes sense that your body feels weird right now. What the fuck? Like he remembered it, he processed it, he held on to it, and then he used that to reassure me. I felt so seen. I felt so heard. And if that isn't a perfect example of being a part of someone's village, I don't know what is. So if you are close with someone, then you probably know what their triggers are, what stresses them out, what makes them feel insecure. And if you don't know the answers to those questions and you think you're close with someone, maybe it's time to start paying attention to these kinds of details so you can show up as a part of their village. And if you are already there, The next level would be to make sure that they feel accepted and loved, even when, and especially when, those insecurities show up. For example, when I get anxious, I then get anxious about the fact that I am anxious because I'm worried that my anxiety is going to annoy everyone around me and they're going to want to stop hanging out with me. So when I'm anxious, I isolate. But my close group of people, my village, my community, they reassure me. They show up with me. And when they know I'm anxious, they make sure to hang out with me and my anxiety and not try to make me fix it. There's no pressure to make it go away. There is only acceptance for who I am. And I try to do this for them as well. I'm just sharing my own personal stories because I don't want to share stories about other people's insecurities without their permission. So our job as being a villager is to be the voice of love and acceptance for your loved ones. And that's going to look different for everybody, depending on what they need and what they're hoping for and how they want you to show up as a villager. Just like how you want people to show up for you as a villager might be different from person to person. And that's okay. So if you have the capacity, you might show up in person or buy them little treats or do something specifically to let them know that you're thinking about. You might even make meals for them if they're struggling and don't know how to cook or are struggling to cook, just to show that you care. That's like over the top, above and beyond stuff that I've done before for people that I care about. If they're going through a medical procedure, I will make like a week's worth of meals for them. And then at the end of the day, being a villager, but you don't have to do that level of showing up all of the time, every time. At the end of the day, being a villager is inviting the people you care about to be their authentic selves and continue to grow together. And what I love about this is if you're trying to show up as a villager, if you model healthy boundaries, unconditional love, and acceptance, and being there for them in any way that you can, for the people that you want to be in your village, then ideally, they're also going to match your effort and they're going to show up for you in similar ways. And if it's only ever one-sided, then that's a point for insight. That's a moment to process and go, am I just showing up for these people and they're not really showing up for me? Am I a villager, but they're not? Is this actually a community or is this just me doing stuff for them? And vice versa. Is it just that they're only doing stuff for me and I never match their effort? Notice how you show up with your people and what this looks like. This is also how you show up in a small role as a villager. You can be a part of someone's village even if they are a complete stranger or just an acquaintance or just a friend and not a close friend. And that is treating everyone with love and acceptance and patience and inviting them to take up space and be their authentic selves while you be your authentic self. The ability to let everyone be true to them. Like in the example from my previous episode with Clayton. He had just started presenting as male, and his family wasn't using his pronouns. But they were out at a restaurant, and the waiter called him, him. He used his pronouns. And this small act of acceptance helped him feel accepted and seen, even by a complete stranger. And there was this moment of, okay, I can do this. So if you witness someone using hateful or ignorant speech, even if it's in a joking way, maybe you take a moment to pause and ask, hey, can you explain to me why that was funny? Making them think about it is one way of standing up for them. Or saying, hey, that's not cool, man. Don't say that. If someone seems really uncomfortable in a space, maybe you can smile at them. Maybe you can compliment their shoes or their bag or their glasses. But whatever is authentic for you. If you are not the type of person to speak to strangers, that's okay. You can just sit with them, sit near them, not like next to them, awkwardly, not saying anything. We don't want to do that. But you can just sit near them, pick a table kind of by them, and be a safe presence so that they know it's okay to exist. And it makes it harder for people who might be hateful to enter that space and act that way. Our nervous systems can pick up on how someone else is acting towards us, even if it's nonverbal. So if someone who is having a hard time is used to being criticized, suddenly is standing next to someone who is smiling at them, has relaxed and open body language, and seems more accepting and inviting, this will help their nervous system regulate and feel just a little bit safer. And again, I want to emphasize that how you show up in your village is dependent on what your capacity is. If someone wants more from you than you can give, it's okay to say no. If they are an important person to you, ideally, you're going to name this dynamic. Name that this is where you're at, and name that you see what their need is. You're going to validate their hurt, help them feel seen, and wish you could be there for them more, but acknowledging that what they want from you, you might not be able to give. If you are having a hard time and you don't acknowledge it, that your person is asking for something from you and you just ghost them, like, nah, they'll be fine. I can't handle it right now. They're just going to have to figure it out. Well, that's not going to feel good for either of you, because then your loved one is sitting there going, well, I know they're having a hard time, but why can't they even just send me good words? Why can't they name that they see that I need it, but they can't give it? We're stuck reading minds instead of giving context and giving love, accepting and naming where both of you are. And this is a really tough one to navigate because, again, we are used to thinking about it takes a village in terms of what the village can do for us. But if we can zoom out and look at the bigger picture, then we can start to find new ways to set boundaries and show up for ourselves while also being there for others in the ways that match our capacity. Understanding where your limits are and showing up for others within that capacity allows you to feel like a whole and authentic person. It helps you not burn yourself out while being there for others and their emotions. Because if you just do that all the time and never say no, you are going to burn it. But this doesn't mean never leaving your comfort zone. That like, well, it doesn't work for me, so I'm never going to do it. It's about knowing how long you can be on the edge or just outside of your comfort zone without hurting yourself. My peace is incredibly important to me. And in an ideal world, I would probably only socialize about once a week and have a full week between those social outings. But I care about my community, so I almost never give myself that week. I remember after a particularly social relationship, I was feeling emotionally burned out. I couldn't give anything else to anyone else. And I was curious how long it would take me to recharge if I gave myself permission to do nothing with anyone until I was actively missing my community. I went into full hermit mode. I didn't even text people back. And it took me about 2 months to feel like myself again. And this is why understanding your capacity matters. I went so far past my limits that I couldn't show up for anyone for months. I don't want to do that. So I have to say no sometimes. And I'm not perfect, which means I'm still going to say yes more than what my capacity would want. But I do also say no now when I need to, so that if somebody in my inner circle needs me to show up, I can be there without a doubt. And if someone isn't in my inner circle, but I still want to be there for them, I do that. I just don't push my capacity as much as I would for somebody that is in the inner circle. And it is really hard to find this balance. This is nuanced and this is complicated. So if any of you have questions or specific dynamics you'd want me to talk about, please reach out. Please let me know. Please write a comment on my Instagram. I don't know, however you want to talk to me. I check it all, but I would love to be able to go into more details if you want me to. So, another way that this is really hard and challenging is sometimes if there's two people, one person might want to be closer and in that inner circle when they aren't. Or one person wants to be not as far in that circle and you think they should be closer. There's often a miscommunication around. And that can lead to showing up as a villager complicated. And I have been that person thinking that I'm closer to someone than maybe I really am and expecting them to show up as such and then being disappointed. But I've also been that person not feeling as close to someone as they want to be and worrying about disappointing them. Friendships, family relationships, romantic relationships are constantly ebbing and flowing. And we need to be able to recognize that when someone can't show up for us, that doesn't mean they don't care. It might just mean that they don't have that capacity right now. So this is something that I have been processing myself and I have been navigating because sometimes I don't want to show up for someone. Mainly because it's going past my limits and I can't. And if I did, it's going to hurt me. But it also doesn't feel good to be like, I don't know if I want to show up for you right now. And I often pause and worry that maybe I'm not showing up for my village. Am I supposed to push through this moment? I start overthinking all the times that I've said no. And then I remember all of the times that someone needed to move and I block my schedule immediately so that I can help them. Or someone calls me crying and I stay on the phone with them as long as they needed me to. How often I create safe and compassionate spaces for people in public so that they don't feel pressure to show up in a specific way and can be themselves. All of these are examples, positive perspective of how I do show up as a villager, how I am strengthening and building my community. All those moments unprompted that I just randomly text gratitude to somebody because I'm glad they're in my life and I need them to know it. This is being a villager. I am a recovering people pleaser, which means that for a very long time, my default was to only ever be someone's villager, to be a part of the community and never be the one that needed the village. I tried to never expect others to be there for me. I was hyper independent because I wasn't supposed to need them. So I did my best not to. But I'm learning that this isn't fair or healthy to any of us because being a part of a village means that ebb and flow, that give and take. And so I am learning and still learning. It's constant progress here, but I am learning to set boundaries and choose myself first. And sometimes it can feel like I am forsaking others and ignoring them, but that isn't true. If I can prioritize myself first, then I feel better, I feel healthier, I have more capacity, and then I can actually show up for my community. So if this is resonating for you, if you're this type of people pleaser person, maybe your next step is looking at how much effort you put into others and see if they match that effort, or if it is just one-sided with you doing it all. But this can go the other way too, where someone might be so used to focusing on themselves or starting to figure out what they need in the healing journey, and then they're used to their friends or family showing up for them. And so as they're healing, as they're working, as they're uncomfortable, it might be, but what are you doing for me? You need to show up for me. You need to be there for me. You need to change your schedule for me. If that's the majority of how you interact with people, then this might be where you're at in the journey. And maybe your next step is to notice whether or not you are matching the effort that you expect from others. Over time, no matter where you are at in the journey, which side you're on, the hope is to find that messy middle ground where sometimes you're the one asking for support and sometimes you're the one giving it. And sometimes you both might need support at the same time and you can't give it to each other. So how can you let both experiences exist without hurting the other person. This is a hard balance. And again, it is nuanced and it is situation dependent. I can't just sit here and be like, do X, Y, and Z and it'll be better, because it depends on what your triggers are and what their triggers are and how you feel insecure and how they feel insecure and what makes you feel supported and what makes them feel supported. You have to muddle through it with each relationship that you have and let it be okay that each relationship is going to be a little different. But maybe, just maybe, you can make one small step towards insight today and find a small, manageable shift in how we show up. For me, my journey this week is I am noticing that I prioritize if anybody needs something over working out for myself. So I am trying to say no to people if I want to work out today. And that's hard for me to do. I keep automatically being, yeah, sure, I can do that for you. And at the end of the day, I'm like, shit, I did it again. I did not work out, even though I wanted to. So I am baby step. Baby step is, hey, actually, I want to do this workout. And if I have time after, then we can do that thing. But if I'm really tired, it might just be a no for me today. So yeah, think about what your small, manageable step can be and start there. Hopefully, something we talked about today resonated with you. If it did, let yourself sit with that idea for a little while longer. If you have any questions for this podcast or any themes you'd like us to focus on in the future, send us a message on Instagram at Insights With Us Podcast, or send us an email at insightswithus@gmail.com. If you enjoyed this podcast and want to hear more, please follow, like, or subscribe. If you want to support the continuation of this podcast, you can donate. To do so, find me, Anastasia Soroka, on buymeacoffee.com. You can also find Insights With Us on Substack for exclusive content, including videos and writings about my insight journey. You can find digital downloads on my website, happymindwellness.com. Thank you for being my adventure buddy. I appreciate you, and I appreciate you being here exactly as you are. Thank you for creating insight with us. And one more final word as a thank you to my partners, the Pelvic people. Everybody's bodies are different, and how we connect bodies, I'm talking pleasure here, should not be painful. Whether you want to have fun with yourself or with another person, the Pelvic people are a group of healthcare providers creating products to help your body heal and find your own path to pleasure. You are not alone. And if you struggle to let go and find pleasure in your sex life, check out the Pelvic people. Use code InsightsWithUs7 for $7 off at checkout. That's THEPelvicPeople.com. Use code InsightsWithUs7 for a discount.